There are moments in life when you can feel death watching you, waiting. He just didn't know it yet. That morning in the Arizona desert, as the sun rose like a blood-red eye over the horizon, a Border Patrol officer checked his gear one last time. Water, radio, GPS. Everything by the book. Everything routine. He had no idea that in less than 6 hours, he would be dead. Or that what happened next would force him to question everything he believed about life, duty, and the very nature of his soul. The desert has a way of stripping away illusions. It's unforgiving, brutal, honest, and on that August day in 2019, it would become the doorway between two worlds. Some people say that before you die, you feel a warning, a chill down your spine, a whisper in your mind. He felt it that morning, a heaviness in his chest. A voice that seemed to say, turn back, but he ignored it. He had a job to do. 15 miles from the nearest road, deep in territory locals called the Devil's Throat, he would encounter something that no training could prepare him for. Not a criminal, not a threat, but a presence that would shatter his understanding of reality and show him why he was really born. This is his story. This is what he saw on the other side, and this is what brought him back. 3:47 p.m. The radio static shattered the desert silence. We have movement. Multiple targets entering the canyon system. Coordinates follow. His heart rate jumped. The Devil's Throat. Even experienced agents avoided that place. It was a labyrinth of stone where the sun barely reached, where rattlesnakes nested in the shadows, and where bodies turned up months after people disappeared. 17 confirmed deaths in 5 years. But protocol was protocol. He grabbed his gear and radioed back. Copy that. Moving to intercept. The moment he stepped into the canyon's mouth, the temperature dropped 20 degrees. The walls rose like prison bars on both sides, jagged and ancient, carved by floods that hadn't come in decades. His boots crunched on gravel, fresh footprints. Small ones. Children, maybe. Families running from something worse than this hell. He pushed the thought away. Can't think like that. Can't be human about this. Just do the job. The canyon twisted deeper, narrower. Sunlight became a memory. His flashlight beam cut through darkness that seemed alive, thick as smoke. 20 minutes in, he heard something. Voices. Spanish. Crying. A child's cry that made his jaw tighten. How far had they come? How long without water? He moved faster, following the sounds that echoed off stone walls, distorting distances, playing tricks. 30 minutes. 40. The footprints scattered. They'd split up, smart, or panicked. He chose the path leading right, where the canyon dropped into what looked like a dried riverbed. That's when he felt it again. That pressure in his chest. Heavier now. A voice in his head screaming, "Stop. Turn back." He froze. Listened. Nothing but his own breathing and the wind whistling through stone teeth above. Paranoia. Heat exhaustion, maybe? He took another step. The sound came from everywhere at once. A crack like thunder, then the grinding roar of stone against stone. He looked up. Time became syrup, thick and slow. A boulder the size of a car, dislodged from the canyon rim, falling through empty air, falling toward him. His body tried to move, but physics doesn't negotiate. 2 tons of ancient rock traveling at terminal velocity. He saw every detail, the orange lichens on its surface, the way it spun lazily as it fell, the shadow it cast across his face in the half-second before impact. Then connection. His chest collapsed inward, ribs shattered like glass. His skull cracked against stone. The taste of copper flooded his mouth. His vision went red, then white, then a darkness so complete it had texture. In that darkness, a single thought. This is how it ends. Alone. Chasing ghosts in a place called Devil's Throat. And somewhere in the distance, a child was still crying. Pain, not the word, the reality. Every nerve ending screaming in a language beyond sound. His chest wasn't just broken. It was crushed, lungs punctured, drowning in his own blood. His skull fractured, brain swelling against bone. The agony was so total, so consuming, that it became his entire universe. There was no him anymore. Only pain. And then, silence. Not the absence of sound, something deeper. The pain didn't fade, it vanished. Instant, complete. Like someone flipped a switch in reality itself. He opened his eyes. Wrong. He didn't have eyes anymore. Yet somehow, he could see. And what he saw froze every thought. His own body, 15 feet below. Crumpled like a discarded puppet beneath that massive boulder. His right arm bent at an angle arms don't bend. A pool of dark blood spreading across sand that would drink it down and remember nothing. His radio, still clipped to his belt, hissing static into air, his crushed lungs would never breathe again. He should have been screaming, should have been terrified. Instead, peace. Profound, impossible, wrong. He was floating. No, not floating. Existing, hovering, observing. He looked at his hands. Hands? They glowed faintly, translucent, made of something between light and memory. He tried to understand. Dead. The word finally formed. I'm dead. That's my corpse. I'm watching myself be dead. But if I'm dead, what is this? The canyon walls began to change. At first, he thought his vision was failing, another symptom of death. But no. The stone was genuinely dissolving. Not crumbling. Dissolving. Like watercolors running in rain, the brown and orange rock faces bled away into something else. Something that hurt to perceive because human consciousness wasn't built for it. Light. But calling it light was like calling the ocean damp. This was light with a capital L, alive. Intelligent. Ancient beyond measure. It pulsed with rhythms that might have been heartbeats or might have been the breathing of galaxies. It didn't illuminate things, it was things, everything. The source code of existence itself. And he could feel it calling him, not with sound. With gravity. With inevitability. Like a river calling to a drop of water. Come home. Dissolve. Become what you always were. The peace intensified until it was almost painful in its perfection. No more questions. No more guilt. No more duty or failure or disappointment. Just dissolution, unity, end. He moved toward it. Or it moved toward him. Distance had stopped meaning anything, and that's when the light opened like an eye. Like a door. Like the universe remembering something it had forgotten. And through that opening, he saw not saw. Saw. Everything. Everyone. Every choice he ever made, and every choice he never made, and every consequence rippling forward through time like dominoes falling into infinity. He saw his mother's face the day he was born. He saw his own funeral that hadn't happened yet. He saw the child still crying in the canyon, and the child's grandmother who would die looking for him, and the agent who would find his body and quit the force because of it. Cause and effect, action and reaction. The terrible, beautiful web connecting every living thing. And standing in the center of that web, waiting for him with eyes full of sorrow and love and knowing, a figure. A presence. A person who was somehow more real than reality itself. He didn't need to ask the name. Somewhere deeper than knowledge, deeper than faith, deeper than doubt, he stood there, not walked, not appeared. Simply was, as if he'd been standing there since before time began, waiting with infinite patience for this exact moment. Jesus. The name wasn't spoken. It was known, cellular, absolute, like recognizing your own heartbeat. His face was ordinary and extraordinary simultaneously, every race and no race, every age and ageless. Eyes that held galaxies. Not metaphorically, literally. He could see stars being born in those eyes, civilizations rising and falling, the entire history of consciousness reflected back at him, and in those eyes love. But not the greeting card version. Not the comfortable kind. This was love like a surgical blade. Love that saw everything, forgave nothing, demanded everything. The kind of love that burns away lies until only truth remains, no matter how much it hurts. The presence didn't speak, didn't need to. Communication happened in waves of pure understanding that bypassed language entirely. You've been walking in darkness. Not accusation. Statement. Fact. Chasing. Shadows while your own soul crystallizes into stone. Images flooded his consciousness. Not memories, experiences. He didn't remember the past 3 years. He lived them again. Every moment. Every decision. But from a perspective that shattered him. He saw the mother he'd arrested at a checkpoint. Saw her through Jesus' eyes. Not as illegal alien 4471, but as Maria, daughter, sister human. He felt her terror when he separated her from her 6-year-old daughter. Felt it as if he were her. The child's screams. The mother's heartbreak. The way something inside her died that day, something that would never heal. He saw the family he'd tracked for 6 hours through 100-degree heat. Watched them collapse. He'd called it in, yes. Followed procedure. But he'd felt, what? Irritation? Resentment at the paperwork? He experienced that moment again, but this time he felt their dehydration. The father's desperation, the teenage son's kidneys beginning to fail, the 8-year-old daughter who would have brain damage from heat stroke. And he saw himself standing there, waiting, following protocol while a child's brain cooked in her skull. The presence showed him more. A man dying in the desert. He'd found him too late. The man's last thoughts were none of himself. They were of his daughter Esquinciera he'd been trying to reach. A celebration he'd never see. The presence let him feel that father's final moments. The regret, the love, the terrible mathematics of desperation that makes a man risk death for a chance at life. You built walls, the understanding flowed. Not just at the border. Around your heart, around your humanity. You called it duty. Called it professionalism. But what you really called it was safety. Easier not to see them as human. Easier not to feel their pain. Easier to be the machine than the man. And the worst part, the part that made him want to dissolve into nothing, was that it was true. Every word, every image, every accusation he couldn't call an accusation because it was simply accurate. He'd known. On some level, he'd always known. He'd felt their humanity and chosen to ignore it. Chosen comfort over compassion. Chosen the uniform over the man underneath. The presence wasn't condemning him. That would have been easier. Instead, Jesus was simply showing him what he'd refused to see, holding up a mirror made of truth. And in that mirror, he saw what he'd become. Not a monster, but something worse. A good man who'd stopped trying to be good. A human who'd forgotten how to be human. The presence moved closer. Not physically, intimately, until there was no separation between them. Until he could feel that infinite love burning through every lie he'd ever told himself. The question came the understanding that felt like thunder and whisper simultaneously, is not what you've done. The question is, what will you do now? What came next wasn't punishment. It was something far more terrifying, complete honesty. The presence didn't need to condemn him. He condemned himself, with every fiber of whatever he'd become in this place beyond death. The tears started, impossible tears from eyes that didn't exist, streaming down a face made of light and shame. But these weren't his tears alone. He was crying Maria's tears, the mother separated from her daughter. He felt her heart shatter in real time, experienced the specific texture of that grief, how it moved through her chest like broken glass, how it stole her breath, how a piece of her soul simply disappeared that day, gone, never coming back. And he had stood there, clipboard in hand, doing his job. He was crying the father's tears, the man whose daughter got heat stroke while he waited for backup. He experienced that father's guilt, the crushing weight of knowing you brought your child into hell because staying home meant different death. Slower, hungrier, more certain. The impossible mathematics of desperation where every choice is wrong but one choice might be less wrong. He felt that father's hands shaking as he held his seizing daughter, felt his prayers to a God who seemed very far away. And he saw himself, 10 feet away, radio in hand, following procedure. The presence showed him something else, deeper, more personal. His own childhood. Age 7, his family's restaurant. A Mexican family came in, migrant workers, obvious from their clothes, their exhaustion, their accented English. He remembered his father serving them, remembered the warmth in his father's eyes. These people work harder than anyone I know, his father had said. They leave everything behind for a chance. That takes courage. He'd forgotten that. Or worse, he'd remembered it and buried it. Buried it under academy training and border statistics and the comfortable numbness of just following orders. The presence didn't let him hide anymore. He saw the exact moment he'd made the choice. 2 years into the job. A woman begging in Spanish, holding a photo of her son. Por favor, he's only 8, he's dying, please. He'd understood every word, grew up bilingual. But he'd looked at her and said, "Ma'am, I don't understand. You'll need to speak English." He'd lied, looked into her desperate eyes and lied because it was easier than feeling her pain. The presence showed him what happened next. The woman deported. Her son died 3 weeks later. Treatable condition. Would have lived with American medical care. Instead buried in a village whose name he'd never know. That child's death was a thread. And when the presence pulled that thread, an entire tapestry unraveled. Every time he'd chosen comfort over compassion. Every time he'd seen humanity and looked away. Every time he'd hidden behind protocol because protocol meant he didn't have to feel. Every single time. The weight of it crushed him. Not metaphorically. He felt actual pressure, as if the gravity of his choices had mass, had substance, was burying him alive. I didn't know, he pleaded into the infinite. I didn't understand, I was just, you knew. Not the presence speaking, his own voice, his own truth. You always knew, you chose not to feel it. Chose safety over sacrifice. Chose the comfortable lie over the uncomfortable truth. And that was the real judgment, not God condemning him, but himself finally, brutally, completely honest with himself for the first time in years. He saw what he'd become. Not evil. Evil would have been simpler, cleaner. He'd become something more insidious. Complicit. A good man who'd stopped fighting to stay good. A man who'd let the system grind down his humanity one compromise at a time until he couldn't remember what he decompromised away. The presence wrapped around him then. Not speaking, just holding, the way you'd hold someone breaking apart. And in that embrace, he understood. The love wasn't despite his failures. The love existed within them, through them. The love was the thing that refused to let him stay comfortable in his lies. That dragged him here, to this moment, to this brutal, necessary truth. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. The presence didn't accept the apology, didn't need to. Instead, came a feeling unknowing that shook him to his core. Sorry is a word. What matters is what comes next. The light pulsed, changed, intensified, and suddenly, he understood this was the moment. The hinge upon which everything turned. Stay or return. Dissolution or resurrection. Peace or pain. The presence extended something toward him. Not a hand, an invitation, a doorway. Through it, he could see everything he'd ever wanted. His mother, who died when he was 12, standing there smiling. No more cancer, no more morphine haze. Just her. Whole. The peace radiating from that place was intoxicating, narcotic, addictive. No more guilt, no more shame, no more crushing weight of consequence. Just union, wholeness, the end of separation, the end of suffering. You can stay, came the knowing, not words, pure understanding. Here, there is no more pain, no more confusion, no more fighting. You've earned rest. God, he wanted it more than breath, more than life. The thought of returning to that broken body, to that world of compromise and complicity and endless moral gray zones, it felt like volunteering for crucifixion. But then the presence showed him something else. A vision, no 1,000 visions, simultaneous, overwhelming. He saw himself waking in a hospital bed, soldered titanium rods in his chest. Saw 6 months of agonizing physical therapy. Saw himself limping, always limping, a permanent reminder. He saw himself return to the border, 1 month back on duty, then submitting his resignation. Saw his captain's face twist in confusion and anger. You're throwing away your career, your pension, everything. Saw himself walk away anyway. The vision shifted. He saw himself in a tiny office, donated furniture, cracked ceiling, a hand-painted sign, Border Angels Humanitarian Aid. He saw himself organizing water drops in the desert, placing 5-gallon jugs at known crossing points. Blue barrels that said AGUA and nothing else. No judgment, no questions, just water. He saw the first life he'd save. A teenage girl, 14, collapsed from heat exhaustion. Her lips cracked and bleeding. He'd find her, give her water, call for medical help. She'd live, go on to become a nurse. Save hundreds of lives in her career. All because of water he'd left in the desert. The vision expanded. He saw himself testifying before Congress. Saw himself on news programs. Not famous, not celebrated, mostly mocked. Former agent goes soft. Traitor to the badge. But also saw himself standing in church basements and community centers, telling his story. This story, the one happening right now. Saw faces in those audiences, saw hearts opening. Saw other border agents, active duty, secretly leaving water in the desert because of what he had said. Saw policymakers questioning. Saw small changes multiplying, ripples becoming waves. The presence showed him more. 10 years ahead. An underground railroad of sorts. Not smuggling, guiding, legal advocacy. Helping families navigate immigration courts. Reuniting separated children with parents. He saw a little girl, Maria's daughter, the one he'd separated, finding her mother after 7 years. Saw their reunion. Saw Maria's face. Forgiveness there. Not because he deserved it, Because she chose it. He saw his funeral. 63 years old. Heart attack. Quick. Merciful. The church packed. Not with dignitaries, with people, hundreds of faces, brown faces, black faces, white faces, every shade of human. People whose lives he'd touched, saved, changed. A woman standing at his casket, whispering in Spanish, "You were the bridge." When everyone else built walls, you built bridges. But between those visions, between the beautiful future and the peaceful dissolution, the presence showed him the alternative. What happens if he stays? The world continues. His body found in 3 days, buried with honors. Flag on the coffin, 21-gun salute, forgotten in 6 months. The water station's never built. The girl dies in the desert. Maria never sees her daughter again. The agents who might have changed don't. The small ripples that become waves never start. One life, his life. The fulcrum upon which hundreds of other lives balanced. Not because he was special, because he was willing. This is why you were born. The understanding flooded through him. Not accusation. Invitation. Not to enforce borders. To dissolve them. Not to separate. To connect. Your pain, your guilt, your shame, they're not punishments. They're your preparation. The fire that forges you into something that can withstand what's coming. He looked at the light, at peace, at his mother's smile, at the end of all struggle. Then he looked at the visions, at pain, at purpose. At the girl in the desert who didn't know she was waiting for him. The choice was impossible, and obvious, and terrifying, and the only choice he could make. "I'll go back," he said, not to the presence, to himself. "I'll do it. I'll be what you're asking. I'll be the bridge." The presence didn't celebrate, didn't congratulate. Instead, came a feeling of such profound sorrow mixed with such profound pride that he couldn't tell them apart. Then you need to understand something. The path I'm showing you, it will cost you everything. Your career, your relationships. People you love will call you traitor. You'll be alone, often. You'll question this choice 1,000 times. You'll wonder if any of it matters. And I cannot promise you success, only purpose, only meaning, only the knowledge that you tried. He understood. Finally, completely. This wasn't rescue. This was assignment. This wasn't the end of his crucifixion. This was choosing to walk toward it, eyes open, fully aware. "I know," he whispered. "Send me back anyway." The moment he spoke those words, "Send me back," everything shattered. Not gradually, not gently, violently. The light didn't fade. It ripped away like flesh torn from bone. The presence didn't release him. He was ejected, thrown, hurled across dimensions that human language has no words for. The peace didn't dissolve. It was stripped from him with such force that the absence felt like amputation. Like someone had cut off a limb he didn't know he had. And then impact. His consciousness slammed back into his body with the force of a meteor strike. Every nerve ending that had gone mercifully silent now screamed back to life simultaneously. His chest, oh God, his chest, it wasn't just broken. It was crushed. He could feel each individual rib, shattered into fragments, grinding against each other with every microscopic movement. His right lung had collapsed. The left was filling with blood. Each attempted breath was drowning. Liquid replacing air. The metallic taste of copper flooding his mouth, his throat, his sinuses. He tried to scream. Couldn't. His vocal cords paralyzed by swelling in his fractured larynx. The sound that came out was a wet gurgle. The sound of a man dying. His skull fractured in 3 places. He could feel his brain swelling against the bone, pressure building like a balloon being inflated inside a box. His vision was pure red. Blood in his eyes, blood everywhere. The boulder still pinning him. 2 tons of stone across his torso. He couldn't move his legs, couldn't feel them. Panic joined the pain. Spinal injury? Paralyzed? He tried to lift his arm. His right arm responded barely, moved 3 inches. Agony shot through his shoulder. Dislocated. But his hand was close to the radio. So close. He reached, fingers trembling. Missing by centimeters. Tried again. The movement sent fresh waves of pain through his shattered ribs. Something sharp bone fragment punctured deeper into his lung. He tasted more blood. Reached again. Touched the radio. It slipped from his blood-slicked fingers. No, he thought. Not a word. A prayer. A demand to a universe that seemed suddenly terribly empty. No light, no presence, no peace. Just stone and blood, and the particular horror of dying slowly enough to experience every second. He tried again. Got his fingers around the radio clip. Pulled it toward his face. Pressed the button. Nothing. Dead battery? No, his thumb wasn't pressing hard enough. His strength was leaving. Bleeding out. Brain swelling. Shock setting in. He could feel his body shutting down. System by system. Prioritizing. Heart still beating for now. Lungs trying failing. Kidneys shutting down. Liver shutting down. The biological mathematics of death. He pressed the button again. Static. Then his own voice, barely recognizable. Officer, down. Devil's throat. Coordinates. He couldn't remember the coordinates. Couldn't remember his own name. Concussion. Severe. His consciousness was fraying. Coming apart like wet paper. Please, he whispered into the radio. Not sure if he pressed the button. Not sure if anyone heard. Not sure of anything except pain and the growing darkness at the edges of his vision. Time stopped meaning anything. He drifted. In and out. In pain. Out darkness. In the sun moving across the sky above the canyon. Out his mother's face. In a vulture circling. Out the present, so far away now, so impossibly distant. Had it been real? Had any of it been real? Or was it just the hallucination of a dying brain, neurons misfiring in their final moments? And he was so thirsty. His water bottle was still on his belt, 6 inches from his hand. Might as well have been 6 miles. Out the teenage girl, the one from the vision. Was she real? Would she die if he died? In a sound, distant, rhythmic, mechanical, helicopter blades. Or was that his heartbeat or his imagination? Out darkness, deep, complete, welcoming, in a voice, real, human. Holy shit, I found him. We need immediate medevac. Officer down, critical condition. Hands on him, moving the boulder. He tried to scream, couldn't. The pain was beyond sound, beyond thought, beyond anything except the animal need to make it stop. Stay with me, the voice commanded. Stay with me. You're not dying today. You hear me? Not today. He wanted to tell them about the light, about the presence, about the mission, about the girl who needed water, but his jaw wouldn't work. His tongue was swollen. His thoughts were fragmenting faster now. Helicopter. Definitely real. Landing. Rotor wash kicking up sand that stung his exposed wounds. Hands lifting him. Strapping him. The helicopter tilting as it lifted. His vision tunneling, going dark. We're losing him. Someone shouted, BP dropping, start compressions. Pressure on his already crushed chest. Fresh agony. He wanted to beg them to stop. Wanted to tell them to let him go. Let him return to the light. To the peace. To the end of all this terrible, crushing pain. But somewhere deep in whatever part of him had survived the journey between worlds, a voice whispered, not yet. You promised. You chose this. Not yet. So he held on. To consciousness. To life. To the thinnest thread connecting him to a body that was doing everything it could to die. He held on, and the darkness held back, barely. For 3 hours and 47 minutes. Until the hospital. Until the surgeons. Until the machines that could breathe for him while his lungs remembered how. He held on. Because somewhere in the desert, a teenage girl was walking, and she was going to need water, and he'd made a promise. To build bridges, even if it killed him. Especially if it killed him, so he held on. 6 surgeries. 43 days in intensive care. 3 months in rehabilitation learning to walk again. The doctors called it a miracle. Medical journals documented his case. Survival statistically improbable, they wrote. Clinically fascinating. But they couldn't document what really happened in that canyon. Couldn't measure the thing that had changed inside him. The titanium rods in his chest set off metal detectors. His right leg would always be slightly shorter than his left, a permanent limp, a permanent reminder. Every morning he woke to pain. Every breath was a negotiation with damaged lungs. But every breath was also a gift. A second chance he hadn't earned, but had been given anyway. 2 months after returning to duty, he walked into his captain's office. Resignation letter in hand. You're throwing your life away, his captain said. Not angry. Genuinely confused. 15 years on the force. 3 years from full pension. For what? To become what, a social worker? He thought about explaining. About the light. About Jesus showing him the web of cause and effect. About the girl who would die without water. About bridges and walls and the difference between duty and purpose. But he knew how it would sound. crazy, traumatized, brain damaged. So he just said, I saw something out there. Something that changed what I understand about this work, about these people. I can't do it anymore. Not like this. His captain accepted the resignation, shook his hand. You were a good agent? He said. It felt like a eulogy. His family was worse. His brother stopped speaking to him. Called him traitor at Thanksgiving dinner. His uncle, a retired sheriff, sent a letter. You're spitting on everyone who wears the badge. His father, quiet for months, finally said, I don't understand you anymore. But your mother, she would have. That was enough. Had to be enough. He started small, a folding table at a church. Hand-painted sign, legal immigration help free. 3 people came the first week. By month 6, he had a waiting list of 200 families. He learned the immigration system inside and out. Learned how broken it was. How a misplaced comma on a form could separate families for years. How justice and law weren't always the same thing. He started the water drops alone. Drove into the desert at night. Left blue barrels marked AGUA at known crossing points. No cameras, no press. Just water. The first 3 barrels were destroyed by other agents. Kicked over, emptied. He filled them again and again. Eventually they stopped destroying them. Some agents even started helping, quietly, secretly, leaving anonymous tips about where water was needed most. 7 months after his first water drop, he got a call. A ranger found a girl, 14 years old, severe dehydration but alive. She'd found one of his barrels. Drank. Survived. She was the one from the vision. He knew it the moment he saw her photo. Same face, same eyes. Same future nurse who would save hundreds. The presence had been real. The visions had been real. All of it, real. The interview started, local news first. Former border agent switches sides. The comment section was vicious. Traitor. Bleeding heart. Someone should leave him in the desert, but others reached out, quietly. I'm an active agent, one email read. I can't do what you're doing. Not yet, but I left water at coordinates 31.8472 N. Thank you for giving me permission to be human again. That's when he understood. His mission wasn't to save everyone, wasn't to fix the system single-handedly. It was to be visible, to stand in the gap, to show other people that choosing compassion over comfort was possible, that you could acknowledge the complexity, the real security concerns, the legitimate debates and still choose to see the humans caught in the machinery. 5 years later, his organization had 17 volunteers. They documented saving 43 lives directly, hundreds more indirectly. They helped families navigate courts, reunited separated children with parents, provided legal advocacy for those who couldn't afford lawyers. It wasn't enough. Would never be enough. People still died in the desert. Families were still separated. The system was still broken, but every life mattered, every reunion mattered. Every moment of choosing humanity over policy, compassion over convenience, it all mattered. He spoke at churches, community centers, universities, always told the whole story, the canyon, the boulder, the light. Jesus showing him the truth about his own heart. Some people believed him. Most didn't. Some thought he was crazy. Some thought he was exploiting religion for politics. He didn't care anymore about being believed, only about being faithful. At night, when the pain in his chest kept him awake, when the doubt crept in, when he wondered if any of it made a difference, he remembered. Not just the light, not just the presence, but the specific moment. The choice. The understanding that meaning isn't found in success but in the trying, that bridges are built one stone at a time. That transformation isn't a moment but 1,000 small decisions to keep choosing love when hate is easier. Connection when separation is simpler, humanity when indifference is more comfortable. He'd been dead in that canyon, really truly dead. And someone had reached across the boundary between worlds and offered him a choice. Stay in peace or return to purpose. He'd chosen purpose. And every day since, every painful breath, every hateful comment, every small victory, every devastating loss was the working out of that choice. Some people ask him if he regrets it. If he wishes he'd stayed in the light. He thinks about his mother's smile. About the peace that passionless place. About the end of all struggle. Then he thinks about the girl who lived because she found water. About Maria, who got 7 more years with her daughter. About the agent who wrote that email. About the bridges being built, one stone at a time. No, he always says. I don't regret it. This is what I was born for, not the job I had. The work I'm doing now. The person I'm becoming. That's what death taught me. That's what coming back meant. And sometimes late at night, when the desert wind blows just right, he swears he can still feel it. Not the light, not the presence, but something quieter, closer. A knowing that his mother was right all those years ago. That the people crossing borders aren't problems to solve. They're courage walking on two legs. They're love that risks everything. They're human, just human. Trying to survive. Trying to protect their children. Trying to find home. And if he could help even one of them get there alive, if he could be the bridge when everyone else was building walls, then every broken rib, every painful step, every sacrifice was worth it. Because that's what the other side taught him. That we're all just trying to get home. And home isn't a place. It's wherever love is waiting. His job now is making sure people live long enough to find it. This story raises a question that haunts us all. What would you do if you saw the other side? If you were given a second chance, a divine mission, would you have the courage to walk away from everything you know? His story isn't unique. We've documented hundreds of near-death experiences where people encountered Jesus, saw heaven, or received messages that completely transformed their lives. A firefighter who met his deceased daughter and came back with proof of the afterlife. A doctor who was clinically dead for 18 minutes and returned with knowledge she couldn't possibly have. A soldier who saw hell and came back determined to save others from that fate. These stories exist. They're real. They're waiting for you. But here's what matters right now. If this story moves something inside you, if it made you question what lies beyond, if it gave you even a moment of hope or wonder, don't let this be the last one you hear. Hit that subscribe button right now. Because every week we bring you true stories of people who died, saw the other side, and came back changed forever. Stories that challenge everything you think you know about life, death, and what comes after. And before you go, leave a like on this video. It tells us you want more of these profound, life-changing stories. It helps others who are searching for answers find their way here. Drop a comment below. Tell us, do you believe his experience was real? Have you or someone you know ever had a near-death experience? What would you do if given a second chance? Your story might be the next one we tell. The question isn't whether the other side exists. The question is, are you ready to explore it? We'll see you in the next story. Until then, remember, every breath is a gift. Every choice matters. And sometimes the end is just the beginning.